Hi everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to my channel. Well, today is the start of a video hop where I'm going to be participating with a few friends, and our theme for the video hop is May Flowers. I'm going to be creating with my latest kit called Orange Shades of Spring, and I'm going to be creating this cute little spring frame which can be used as just a nice little decoration for your spring household decorations. Now, the video hop is going to go starting today, May 1st, and it's going to go through May 7th. You're going to find a list of all the participants below in the description box. So be sure to click the next video and it will take you through the hop. Today is also the start of a new challenge over on my challenge blog, and I will make sure that I leave links to that below as well. By participating in the challenge blog, you do get entered into a drawing to win a $10 gift card for a digital item over in my shop. Now, this kit that I'm going to be working with not only has paper, but it also has some really nice ephemera to create a really fun spring card or decoration item like I'm doing with this here today. What's great about digital images is you can size them down so you can use them for any types of projects. You can use them for cards, you can use them for home decor, and then you can size them as to what you need. And then they're really easy to cut out. I have a Brothers Scan and Cut, so I tend to use that when I'm cutting out my ephemera. But you can certainly fussy cut it as well. Now, this frame measures about 5 by 7. And what's really nice about this frame, it's from Tim Holtz, the Ideaology collection, is it comes apart. So the top part of the frame isn't attached to the base. So you can easily just open it up and then add your background, just like I'm doing here. And I'm just using my 3-in-1 beacon glue to go ahead and adhere the background paper to the baseboard. And then you're just going to want to give it a little bit of time to dry. And once it's dry, then you can go ahead and cut off the excess paper. Now, you could also easily just size it down by measuring your base and cutting it ahead of time. But I went ahead and I just added the paper to the base because I knew I could just easily use my X-Acto knife to go ahead and cut the excess off from my base. Now, if you're not comfortable using an X-Acto knife, you can easily trim this up as well by using your scissors. Also, if you have some sandpaper, because the paper that I'm using is so thin, you could have easily just used some sandpaper to get rid of the edging as well. So once I have it trimmed up, I'm going to go ahead and ink up my edges by using my Vintage Photo Distress ink. And this just kind of finishes it off. That way none of the white spots or white edges are showing from my paper. Okay, now as you can see, once you get the frame on top, it does make the part that shows a little bit smaller. So as I'm going along, I'm going to be adding this frame over the overlay on top, just to make sure I'm not going to be going too far to the edges. Now, whenever I do create a home decor item like this, I try to place my figures or my ephemera pieces ahead of time, so I kind of have an idea of where I'm going. And that's why, as you can see, I have all the pieces that I'm going to be using ready to go. But before the video, it took me quite a bit of time to figure out exactly what I wanted to do and the theme that I wanted to go with. Now, while you might not think that this little ruler here makes sense, but the sentiment that I'm going to be using here is it says growing, and growing can not only work for flowers, but it could also work for little kids as well, little children, because they are growing. So that's kind of what I wanted to have my theme with. It was not only flowers, but of a little child that is growing next to her ruler. So the background paper that I'm using did already have that watering can, and I didn't want it to look odd in the photo, so I went ahead and got some of the ephemera pieces from my kit to cover that up. That way my background didn't look like it had a watering can. I wanted my watering can to be my focal image without any distraction. There were several ephemera pieces in the kit, but I went ahead and I chose to use this little coin holder along with the flower. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add some adhesive down once I figure out exactly where to lay it under the frame. So a lot of the pieces that I'm using today are from the Tim Holtz Ideaology collection. This frame that I'm using, of course, is from the Ideaology collection. And then the inside frame, which is that lace frame, is also from the Ideaology collection. So once I had these ephemera pieces glued down, then I went ahead and I started working on the frame, the smaller frame. And with the smaller frame, what I did is I just took, again, another one of the Ideaology pieces and I glued it to the side because that's going to be in the background of the little girl and her dog. So if you can notice on the orange paper, some of the background does have signs of chicken wire. So I thought that this, which I found in my stash, would be a nice addition as well. It kind of goes along with the paper. So I decided to use that as a background. So I just kind of took my frame and I measured it up on my cutting board to go ahead and use my X-Acto knife to cut this down. And then I'm going to go ahead and just glue it to the back of this frame, so that way it will have a nice additional texture. Now this piece is from Architectures, and it's from a company that is no longer Seven Gypsies. It used to be called Seven Gypsies, but I think it's called something else now because it was sold. But the line was Architectures, and I know that you can probably still find this out there. If you just kind of Google it. I'll see if I can link it up as well for you when I add all of my product. So once I have my background all cut out, I'm going to go ahead and use my 3-in-1 beacon to go ahead and adhere this to the background. And as you can see, it is somewhat sticky already, but I do want to make sure that I get it stuck to the frame before I actually add it to my base. And then from there, since I've already had my adhesive onto the back, and I'm going to go ahead and add it right to the frame. But again, before I do that, I'm going to add the border of the base, the part that's on my base right now. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the base, so that way when I add my frame, I can see exactly where I want it to be centered. Now, I'm going to be adding that little watering can, so that's something I had to take into consideration as well. So when I was kind of playing with the layout, I knew that my smaller frame had to be over to the left a little bit more because the watering can spout was hitting the frame. So I had to kind of take that into consideration as well. Now, one thing I ended up doing is I added some foam tape to the back of the watering can because it is hollow. But one thing I want to caution you on here is I had actually added the foam tape before I added my flowers. So when I went to add my flowers, I couldn't quite get the stems underneath. So you might want to take that into consideration as well. If I were to do this again, I would be adding my flowers at this point when I'm adding the foam. So that way I can get the flowers underneath without having that foam to have to maneuver around. Ultimately, I ended up doing it off camera so I could fix it, but just take that into consideration. And as I mentioned earlier, I have that little sentiment that says growing that I'm going to be adding to the top of the smaller frame. Now, as you can see, there are a couple of holes for brads, but I didn't want to punch holes through that frame. And of course, I had already glued it to my base. So one thing I ended up doing is I just added a couple of brads and glued them down. So that way it looked like it was being held on to the frame with the brads, but in essence, it was just decoration. And I've done that often. If I find a piece where I can't really punch through, I'll add the brads anyway because I do want it to look like it is attached. And then I'll end up just gluing it down just so it's kind of like a faux brad, but it still has the look. And then once I have the brads in place, I'm going to go ahead again and add my 3-in-1 beacon adhesive to the back of the metal journey sign, and I'll glue it to the top of that smaller frame. And for the most part, other than adding my flowers, and adding the little girl, the frame is pretty much complete. So when you are doing one of these home decor items, I would just really recommend is kind of getting the layout before you glue everything down, and then that way you have an idea of where everything is going to go. Well, it looks like, when I'm putting this together on film, it looks like it's coming together really easily, but there is a lot of preparation when I am doing these home decors, just to make sure everything is cohesive and it works together. And then once I have that piece framed, then I'm going to go ahead and add my flowers. Now, as I alluded to earlier, I had already put that foam tape behind the watering can, so it was a little difficult to get my flower stems underneath it. So just once again, just take that into consideration if you are going to be adding something behind the flowering can. If you are going to put some sort of a foam tape, make sure you get your items inside of your can before you add the foam tape, because of course then you don't have the hollowness of the can to be able to put your flowers. Now these little flowers I created just using 3 of my flower punches, and I put these together off camera. One evening I was just kind of playing and created some flowers. Because funny enough, I didn't really have any flower dies in my die cut stash. I had these little small punches where I ended up creating these flowers, and they worked out great. But I was surprised that I really didn't have a lot of flowers in my die cuts. So that might be something I'll have to rectify. Okay, so once I had all of my flowers inside, and like I said, I did that off camera so I can get those underneath that foam tape. I wanted to go ahead and color up the frame. Now at this point, if you want to leave the frame exactly like it is, it's perfectly fine. But I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit more of color to it, and I wanted to grunge it up just a bit. Now there's a couple of ways that you could color this frame. Of course, you can use the distress crayons, which is what I'm doing here. You could also use some of your distress paint. You can use acrylic paint. There's a lot of ways you can go to add some color to your frame. But I wanted it to look a little bit more natural, and that's why I decided to use my distress crayons. And all I'm doing is just adding the crayon onto the frame, and then I'm going to use some of my Mod Podge to move some of that color around. Now this, of course, as you can see, can be a little bit messy. So once you get your frame all colored up, you might want to just take a moment to clean up your hands because they are going to be a little bit grungy. And then once I had the crayon and the Mod Podge all into the nooks and crevices of the frame, I went ahead and just came in with my Vintage Photo Distress ink just to add a little bit more final color. And now I'm ready to attach my frame to the base of my decoration. And by doing this is really easy. All I'm going to do is take some of my glue and I'm going to add it to the back of the frame, and then I'll just put it right on the base. So once the frame is dry, I'm going to go ahead and add the little girl, again using my 3-in-1 Beacon adhesive, but I'm also going to use one of my distress crayons to add a little bit of color to her face. A lot of times people will color up their paper dolls, and while I don't necessarily color the whole paper doll, I like to at least give them a little bit of color in their face to just bring them a little bit more alive. Alright, so like I said, this is a video hop, so you're going to find the link to the next video in the description box below. I'll also leave links to all the products that I've used to create this home decor item as well. Now, for my video, I am going to be doing a giveaway, and if you'd like to be entered into my drawing, all you need to do is leave a comment below and let me know what you think of my project. Do you create home decor items when you are crafting, or do you just strictly stick to cards? I will be drawing my winner after the 7 days. The video hop's going to go on through May 7th. So I'll do my drawing after the 7 days, and I'll do a post on my YouTube channel to indicate who the winner is. So again, if you want to be entered into my drawing, go ahead and just leave a comment below, and that will enter you into my drawing. And as a reminder, don't forget that I do have a challenge going on over on my challenge blog, where you can link up all of your projects as well for the month of May. And then at the end of the month, I will do another drawing where I'll be giving away a $10 gift card. All right, so I hope that you've enjoyed my process for putting together this spring Mayflowers home decor item. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, I'd sure appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've been a little under the weather for the last couple of weeks, so I apologize if my voice sounds a little muffled. I put off doing this video talking for a while, but I knew I had to get my video edited for you. So hopefully my nasal voice wasn't too disrupting for you and you've enjoyed my video. All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope everybody has a great May.